photographers, members, Charles Lewis here. Welcome to this event. We're going to be talking about some really good stuff today on where the photography industry, where we see the photography industry going over the next 5 years or so. Joining me today, of course, is my son and business partner, Mr. Todd Lewis. Hi, Todd.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Just a quick tech thing. Apologies that my dad doesn't sound quite as good as normal. His good microphone, for some reason, is not working today, so he's using the one that's on his webcam. It's not quite as good, but we can hear him, and that's what's most important. Please do type into the questions box and let us know if the audio sounds, terrible for any reason, or if it's really hard to hear or understand any of us. We appreciate that. Welcome also to Tom Morelli. Hello, Tom.
Hi, Chuck. Hi, Todd. Great to be here. It's nice to put down the snow. Nice to put down the snow shovel and come in where it's warm.
Yeah, right. We are definitely in the midst of winter as we're recording this particular program here. But the nice thing is everything that we're going to be talking about today isn't going to be season specific. In a lot of ways, it's not even going to be year specific. But we are going to be dealing with where is the industry heading right now into 2025? Where is it potentially heading over the next 5 years, 10 years? What should photographers be doing? What should they be focusing on? All of those types of things. We're going to make this a very conversational program. So if you have questions at all, those of you that are attending live, feel free to type them into the questions box and let us know. But we're going to also be asking each other questions and diving into the things that we are hearing from photographers all over the world, and the things that we are discussing with what's going on in the industry right now. So real quick, I just want to start with asking Tom, how are things going right now in your photography business? We're in the traditionally slower time of year for a lot of photographers. The beginning of the new year tends to be a little bit slower, but there are things you can do, of course, to mitigate that. How are things going in your photography business right now?
About the same as usual, which is good enough to keep me going because about 80% of my business is July or August and later. But right now, January, February, March, the first quarter of the year for me, baby plans continue because they're year round. So we still have our baby plan sessions coming. We have some families that come in that got gift certificates or auction charity gift certificates for either the holidays or they attended one during the holidays and are required to use it in the first quarter. And also our senior model program. We're photographing class of 26 high school seniors right now that will be used in our marketing in April and May and June when we get the senior season rolling. So we're keeping the studio busy, keeping it rolling. Is it crazy like July, August, September? No, but it will be because of what we're doing now.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, Dad, just real quick, over the years, regardless of recessions, economy, competition, stuff like that, what things have you typically done during the slower times of year to help them not to be slow times of year?
Well, frankly, I did the marketing, worked on the marketing for the upcoming, basically with high school seniors. We usually mailed our first mailer on the 15th of April, easy date to remember. And then I would plan my family portrait month. And in Michigan, it's just there's nothing going on. There's a whole bunch of snow out there, is what there is. And, so we took vacations, as you know. But the whole secret to this thing is to have so much good cash flow in the last half of the year that you can live just perfectly, wonderfully, comfortably without having hardly any photography weddings. Of course, booked a lot of weddings until we stopped doing that because we didn't need to do it anymore. But That was it. No, I didn't try. I did try it. The first few years, I really tried to market my business to get people to come in. No way. So I just said, okay, I'll take vacations.
A couple of things that you can do. So there are things that you can do if you choose to do them.
Yes,
and I want to point those things out right now. Obviously, my dad mentioned weddings. Weddings are happening all the time. If you're photographing weddings, which we stopped photographing them 20 plus years ago, by choice, because we didn't have to anymore. There are a lot of stress, but they do happen year round. Go after those weddings. Babies and children's photography are huge, because guess what? Babies, like Tom said, are being born all the time, and children are growing up all the time.
Yep.
So now is a great time to put messages out there on your social media, on your website, in whatever marketing you're doing, to remind your target market that their children are growing, whether it's snowing out, whether it's sunny out, whether we're freezing cold, whatever. And we want to be sure to take advantage of them at the age they're at to create beautiful portraits, especially at those crucial ages of between being a newborn and being 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 years old. Those are wonderful times to document and have beautiful, high quality photographs of your children taken. Family photography as well. Now, one of the things, a lot of us in the winter, we're looking outside and we're thinking, ugh, snow. But I'm looking outside and I'm going, photographic possibilities all over the place. Because when you do photography outdoors, you can do some incredible family photography in the snow, when we have the kind of snow coverage that we have right now, which is the kind that it's just this nice blanket of white. If you can get it on the times when it's sticking to the trees, things like that. Those are wonderful times to get families out there to do winter themed, not holiday themed, winter themed photography of their family. And if you happen to be one of those photographers that enjoys doing action type photographs, that was not our bread and butter. Our bread and butter has been classic portraiture. But if you like taking photographs of a family interacting and doing activities, get them out there throwing snow at each other. Get them out there with their sleds and have the father pulling the children, and the mother smiling as she watches, or vice versa, the mother pulling the children and the dad smiling, or the mother pulling the dad with the kids on the laps. There are a million things you can do that will make for professional photographs that will be incredibly meaningful to these clients. So don't rule out, unless you are able to and you make the choice, which is what we've been able to do over the years, is make the choice in January, February to take vacations, to allow it to be a little bit slower, because we're riding the high of the rest of the year. If you're not able to do that, or you choose not to do that, there are things you can be doing right now. Tom, anything you want to add to that list at all for right now?
No, that sounds great. Although with the snow we've gotten this year, indeed, we have the senior model sessions lined up to do that, and they ski and they snowboard, so you can tell that story very successfully, even if it's just a snowy area. As you know, as a photographer, you don't need a big mountain. You can do it in a relatively small area, because you're just cropping to show that snow, and it's really fun. Doesn't take long. You can go outside and then run back in and warm up, but it's totally different look and style than you get during the summer and fall. So it is also very attention getting when you post that on social media with their permission.
Yeah.
And the key point here is that you sell what you show. And if you show outdoor photography in February, with green leaves or colored leaves in the fall, that's not going to help you all that much. What you need to do is if like when Tom was talking about babies and children, be sure you show indoor photography, either in the client's home or in the studio, but not outdoors. Because if the minute they look at outdoors, they think, oh, I can't do that now, And then the key point of all this whole discussion is what Tom said at the beginning: marketing, marketing, marketing. Have you got your marketing plan figured out, your calendar figured out for the rest of the year? Why not? What in the world excuse could you have other than it's not very much fun? What other excuse could you have to not spend the time right now, when it's a little slower, to plan your entire marketing strategy based on what you learned last year and what you're learning on the online vault and places like that we give you all these ideas. Tom rolled out his entire marketing program, and it's in the online vault. So that's what you do now, is you take the time now to plan this all out so that nothing is a last minute rush crisis situation.
Nice. Yep, you bet. And for those of you who are not in areas where there's snow, the south, the west, whatever, just now it's just important to convince people why now is a great time to have photographs taken, and find those locations that will be meaningful to the clients and that will be beautiful, evergreen, year round, where you don't have to wait for perfect conditions every single time when you're doing outdoor photography. All right, the first question I have for the two gentlemen here is, let's make this one relatively quick, and then we're going to jump into the real meat. But what would each of you, what is the thing you would most like people to take away from today's program? So Tom, I'll start with you. Again, the program is, what's coming in the photography industry over the next year, 5 years, 10 years, the good and the potentially not so good. I won't say terrible, but I'll say not so good. What would you like photographers to take away from this program today?
Well, and forgive me for doing a little bit of looking at my notes because I did write down a lot of tickler file thoughts. But number one, it's still focusing on the fundamentals. Just like in football, they say do your job. Well, in photography, the fundamentals are still there: lighting, composition, connection with the subject, telling emotional stories, and also understanding the business side, which we talk about a lot here and have over the years. Yeah, equipment is great, but you have to know how to use it, and particularly to show that emotional connection with your viewer. The other thing, takeaway, is you can embrace technology, but don't just rely on it. Don't say AI or other things, which I'm sure we're going to touch on here, are going to do the job for me. You need to know the fundamentals. If you go to Photoshop and Lightroom, a lot of the terms in there come from the darkroom days. Matter of fact, that's why they call it Lightroom, the opposite of darkroom, kind of a little play on words. So learning those things is important. It's kind of like when they used to make me memorize the math tables, and I'd say, what good is this? Well, now when I'm sitting at a restaurant and I need 15% tip, I can do it in my head. And the last thing is to take away from today is that despite all the technology and the fun bells and whistles that we're now seeing that come along, having a business mindset is still critical. This is a business first and foremost. It's not a hobby if you're going to be in business. So you have to learn the business skills, the sales and marketing and merchandising skills, and don't rely on just, hey, my camera can do all the great exposures for me and they'll line up at my door because my photographs are so great.
Right, absolutely. All right, Dad, how about you? What's the one thing you would most like people to take from this program today? And if you get a chance, if you can change your name, because it says you're Todd Lewis and Charles Lewis, and I know that we're not
people.
That you're not two people, although we're very
personality
close. So when you get a chance, if you can change that. But first, if you would answer, what do you most want people to take away from this program?
Yeah, I'm going to give you the key point right here, that you have to be proactive. You can't say, well, here's where the photography business is going, and I guess I'm just along for the ride. You're not. I learned that. Wow, did I learn that. During horrible recessions, I'm not just going to sit here and, okay, if there's a recession on, I guess I'll do something else for a while. Be proactive. And here's what you've got to memorize, is that photography, success in photography requires, demands your passion for a process. Your passion for a process, like Tom was saying. You need a system in place that will take care of you and get you where you want to go, rather than just grabbing onto where the photography business is going, as we're going to talk about. Okay, and then marketing, pricing, selling, and photography are the pieces, the aspects of your process. Napoleon Hill said, hard work and long hours alone will not produce success. And boy, he should know, having studied with so many tremendously successful people. He said, you must have an organized plan. Organized, structured, laid out, working on it all year round, even during the slow season, especially during the slow season. And that's the process we're talking about. Passion for a process. If you love photography, then you've got to love marketing, pricing, and selling as well. But it's part of the process to be a professional photographer. but we tend to like equipment. We tend to like people. We tend to like working and creating images. But the problem is we don't create any images if we don't do the correct marketing, pricing, and selling. So that's the key point today. Frankly, forget where it's going and you determine where you want it to go. Do you want to work day and night, 7 days a week, all the time, hundreds and hundreds of clients, working your tail off just for them to ask for the files, and you have to argue with them, or worse yet, sell them to them for 20 bucks? Is that the way you want to live? Because certainly that's where this is going. Have you seen the cameras on the latest phones? Holy mackerel. Have you seen what they can do with having those 3 cameras? Holy smokes. You don't have to follow that. There are people out there that want something really well done, that want something that they're not going to do every 5 minutes or 20 days or whatever. They want something that's going to be done every 5 or 10 years. Something really nice, especially of their family or their children as they're growing up, as Todd was talking about. So you have to determine, where do I want to go in this thing? Oh, I know, I'll just follow the AI trend and I'll just plug it in and I'll let everything happen. And I'm not going to meet with clients anymore. I don't need to meet with clients. Heck no. I'll just go there, do the photograph, leave, never see them again, send them the files. Oh boy, this will be great. I'll be busy. Oh yeah, but you won't be going where you want to go. The only reason your business exists is to supply you and your family with the successful lifestyle that you demand, that you deserve. And that's up to you. No one else can help you if you don't first unless we can help you to make the decision that you're not going to float along and just barely make it and get tired of it and work too hard. I know what it's like. I've been there. But I'm telling you, there's a better life if you learn the process that will get you to doing a lower volume of photography and great sales to where you earn a great living and take time off and do things with your family. That's what we're all about.
So to piggyback off of that a little bit is, no matter what, no matter where the photography industry as a whole goes, there will be very successful photographers making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
Yep.
Do you want to be one of those?
Yep.
And if so, don't follow the trends and don't follow what the majority of photographers are doing, because the majority of photographers are struggling. So you don't follow the masses, you follow the successes. All right, next question. Let's start with you on this one, Dad, first. Let's start with you, Dad. What is the number one fear that you're hearing from people in the photography industry right now?
I need more clients. They don't know how to get them. And they think they have to chase after people to get them to sit down in front of their camera. And they're scared to death. And creativity cannot exist in a tense or scared environment. So they're not doing their best work because they're so scared about what are they going to do next month to pay the bills. And there's an answer there, and it's marketing and pricing and selling, and it's all tied together. But that's the biggest fear. They feel the same way I felt. The better my photography is, the better I'll be successful. And that one has very little to do with the other one.
Right. We talk about this all the time, that we've seen tons of photographers who are at best mediocre. I mean, I know it's each person's going to have their own opinion, right? But that are making tons of money, and photographers who are extraordinary that are barely getting by. Why is that? Because it has more to do with the business side. The turning your passion into a business is a choice. Otherwise, you can just take beautiful photographs all you want. You won't make money from it. You probably won't have a lot of subjects. You'll probably photograph a lot of friends and family members, and that's wonderful if that is what you want to do, just for the joy and the artistry. But if you want to make it a business, you have to make it a choice to make it a business, and make the choice to not let the industry drive you. drive the industry where you want it to go, and realize that in every industry, there will always be people that are looking to invest a large sum of money for someone that does something extraordinarily well. Every industry. Is that where you want to be? Or do you want to be somebody that's just photographing hundreds of people, cranking them through on an assembly line, doing it boom, 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 and where the photographs really don't look all that different than what somebody could do at home with their smartphone? You have to make that choice, because it is a choice. It really bugs me when photographers think of themselves as competing with all the other photographers out there, because in reality, you're not. You're not competing with all the photographers out there. You're competing with a very, very small elite number who are positioning themselves in their community and in the industry, and among their target market, as somebody who takes the time, does it right, understands lighting, posing, and how it impacts the psychology of the portraits we create and the relationships that are in those portraits, and create wall portraits for people to enjoy in their homes, in their offices for decades to come. You're not competing with the other photographers out there. You're only competing with a very small number, and you have to make a choice. Where am I in that hierarchy? Am I high volume, low price? Am I medium volume, medium price, which is a really rough place to be, because then you're kind of in that weird. One of my favorite movies from decades ago, those of you that are old enough to remember, the good old 80s and lived through it, the movie Karate Kid. And one of my favorite aspects of that is Mr. Miyagi, played by the wonderful late Pat Morita. Wonderful character, telling Danielson that walk on left side of road, safe. Walk on right side of road, safe. Walk down middle of road, squash, just like grape. I paraphrased it probably a little, but that's pretty close, okay? And it's wonderful, and I was doing it almost exactly as he does it, so I'm definitely not making fun of the way Mr. Miyagi talked. But I love what that takeaway is. You've got to make a choice. If you just try to ride the middle, squash, just like grape, okay? And that applies to so many areas of our lives. We try to play it safe by walking that middle ground, when a lot of the time in our lives, and sometimes there's a place for a middle ground to understand the gray areas. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about in business, making the choice of where do I want to be positioned? Where do you want to be positioned? You have to make that choice. All right, Tom, what is the number one fear that you're hearing from people in the photography industry right now?
Well, I do a lot of research. I talk to a lot of people in Facebook groups who are looking to become photographers, struggling, working along. And kind of the two most common things that I hear is, number one, saturation of the market. Everybody, I jokingly say you could throw a dead cat on my street and hit a photographer, but the cat doesn't like that, so I don't do it. The idea being that once digital cameras around the early 2000s came along, and of course, as Chuck mentioned, the camera phones that are absolutely mind-blowing, where you can change everything, portrait mode, this, that, the other thing. I tell people, you have to get up every day in your marketing and ask yourself, what should I do to make people want to pick up the phone and call me instead of someone else? That's kind of your number one job to fight against, not physically, obviously, but mentally fight against the feeling of saturation of the market. Is how can you stand out from everyone else? How can you become famous in your community? How can you be the person in your community when someone talks about portraits or being photographed, that your name comes up first? And the way to do that is, as we've taught for so many years, marketing constantly. Don't let up. If things are busy, great. Keep your foot on that pedal, because 6 months from now, that may not be the case. So saturation of the market probably is the biggest complaint or fear I hear, which is I can't stick out. The other one is the fear of being replaced by AI and technology. When people see ads for we don't use this term, but headshots, which are business portraits, head and shoulder business portraits, primarily they're talking of, where the consumer can send in a rather average photograph of themselves, and the technology will send back 20 various variations of that with different clothing, different backgrounds. I tried it because I figured I should know what I'm talking about. My wife had me do one. I did one myself. Some of them were pretty darn good. A lot of them didn't look very realistic. They looked a little too techy, but a couple of them I said, I could live with that. So my point there is that may not be the business model you're looking for. Family groups, they're not making that kind of technology right now because family groups are a lot harder to market to, photograph, and get together. So my advice, if you're worried about AI technology replacing you as well as saturation in the market, is family portrait photography, which conveniently, as we've always taught, is the most profitable and long-term business building type of photography one can do in the portrait business. High school seniors and babies kind of fit into that because those families grow up and they have portraits of the seniors graduating, babies being born, and they all kind of fit together. So don't just think of AI and technology as another tool. I remember when digital came along. Well, that's it. We're done. I remember, I'm old enough, when I was photographing with my Hasselblad and my film cameras, and people started doing video at weddings. Well, that was it. We're done. There's no more need for a still photographer. They're just going to want a video to pop in that VHS tape and watch their wedding 100 times, which they never do. And so that was going to be the end of us. And I said, I think this is kind of a different cat. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm going to work on my own marketing for weddings. And of course, I just got busier and busier with them until I decided I didn't have to do them anymore as well. So don't get distracted by fear of being replaced by AI or technology, because I feel like if you do your marketing properly and hone your skills and have good people skills, people will always want to work with a person and someone who emotionally gets them, whereas AI and technology, that component is not there.
Well, you just touched on something that is a very important distinction here. You said people will always kind of want to work with a person. And not all people will. Some won't care. Some will be like, I don't care how I get an image, just get me an image. And that's great. Not our clients. But our clients, not only are they more likely to want to work with a person that is going to take care of them and get there, but also I think what you're going to see, mark my words, what you're going to see, and this is going to be happening rapidly over the next 5 to 10 years, rapidly, is you're going to see a major pushback against AI generated images. And what you're going to see, especially in the high-end portraiture world, the family photography world, the wedding photography world, the high-end children and baby photography world, is you're going to have people saying, you don't do that AI crap, do you? Because I want to, not only do I want to be sure this looks like us, I want to know that image was created by us, with us, in that moment. I'm not just looking for a magazine cover image that just everyone looks perfect and photoshopped and airbrushed into oblivion that AI can do. And I don't want to have 6 fingers. But anyway, that'll get fixed. That'll get fixed. But what I want is I want to know when I look at that image that image was created in that moment. And I remember what we were feeling when it happened. And it not only is it a wonderful documentation of us as a family, but it is a perfect 60th of a second in our family's life. And it's real. Don't underestimate how important reality is going to be to people. Now, I'm a big virtual reality person. I love the tech of virtual reality and the potential for what virtual reality can do to bring the world together and to have us experience things we can't normally experience. But hey, if I have the choice between going into my VR headset and watching a 360-degree 3D scuba diving video, or putting my gear on and getting in the ocean and swimming with those fish, that sounded mobster-esque. Not swimming with the fishes, swimming with those fish. I'm going to put my gear on and get in that water any chance I have. That's why when I go scuba diving, I don't bring my VR headset with me. I don't need to. I'm doing the thing in the real world. That's always going to be the choice when we have it. And we will be continuing to provide that service. So, and it's up to us to educate people of that. This is the way I talk with potential clients. This is how I talk to them. And I might even bring that up to them. And say, oh, You've probably heard a lot about this AI stuff that's out there, right? You know, have you been following that at all? A little bit here or there. Well, one of the things that separates us from a lot of the photographers out there is we don't use AI, and here's why. And you talk like that. What our vision for these images for you will be, and if this coincides with what you're looking for, it's going to be to capture this moment of your family, and it's real. Every time you look at it, you'll get a tear in your eye knowing that that moment happened. It happened just like that. And because this photographer was so good at what they do and understanding my family, they made it look the best it possibly could look. When you talk like that, that's your marketing. So anyone that's sitting there and going, give me more details on this marketing thing you keep bringing up, it's being brought up with every word that comes out of our mouth.
All the time.
Because marketing is not about saying, I'm running this special right now, and I got this package, and it'll get you this number of these images for this much, and it'll save you this much. That's not marketing.
That's an offer.
Listing an offer.
Yep.
Marketing is salesmanship in print. Marketing is salesmanship on the web. Marketing is salesmanship through visuals and audio and text. Salesmanship. And what is salesmanship? Finding out what someone wants and helping them to get it, even if they may not 100% know what they want yet. So important.
You know, Todd, if I could jump in just for a second. And probably it's because we've done this for so long and I've been creating my own marketing pieces that almost writes itself. I could see a headline, you know, is your family perfect? Your portraits won't be, sort of tongue in cheek, you know, because we don't use AI. We capture everything about your family that's real and perfect to you. You know, you could just take that whole thing. And it's almost like, gee, there's a new category of appealing to people within marketing, and it's that we're not going to use some fake looking technology on you either. In the same way, people, when digital first came about, it didn't look very good. You remember those, you know, one megapixel camera. And people used to call me on the phone and say, do you use digital photography? And I wasn't sure what they meant. So I'm like, is it good or bad? And half of them,
what do you want me to say?
They're like, it's really good. And I'm like, yeah, sure, we can use it. Or if they're like, no, it looks awful. I'm like, nah, we would never use that. Well, not being disingenuous. But the point is, eventually, you know, when we went to the point where we felt like the digital photography had matched or overcome the shortcomings and looked as good as film as we were doing in those days, then, you know, we'd always answer a question with a question. This guy taught me that over there, and which was, if you don't mind me asking, is having someone that uses a digital camera versus film, you know, is that important to you? And then that created that discussion. So rather than go no or yes, it actually led to another point. So in the same way we use that going from film to digital as kind of part of our discussions, you could do that with AI as well, because it's kind of that next step that some people are concerned. You know, am I going to look fake? Do you guys, you know, why not just go online and use that? Why should I let you do that, Tom, and create photographs that don't use AI? So you can start thinking about how you'd use that in your marketing and in your telephone script.
Yeah, yep. It's so important. And again, this is about remembering that people are people. General human psychology does not change much. The mechanics of human psychology, the environmental impacts, the social economical impacts, those certainly can impact human psychology. But if we understand people, and if we go into every interaction we're having in person or through marketing means, thinking to myself, how can I make this person's day better by seeing what I'm going to say here? And how can I help them to get what they want? If you just go into everything you do with that mindset, you will already be way ahead of most people. When you're sitting down to compose a message on Facebook, Tom knows this better than most. I don't think, you know, I would not approach that sitting down and thinking, can I get hundreds of people to flood to my front door and pound on it and beg me to photograph them? No, that's not the goal. The goal is, how can I reach out and touch and emotionally connect with 3, 4, 5, 10 people that are out there that are my target market, that will appreciate what I do, have the discretionary funds and the interest in investing those funds in something truly meaningful as a portrait of their family, will most likely display this as a wall portrait in their home. See how with every one of those, I'm whittling this down to a very specific niche. And that's what you've got to do. But always doing that, not through manipulation, not through trickery, and not through marketing tricks. I'm doing it through how can I connect with them and enter the conversation that they're having in their mind. I don't remember who we learned that from decades ago, Dad. That actual phrase, enter the conversation. I don't think that was Dan Kennedy. It might have
I think
been
it was Gary Halbert.
Gary Halbert. That sounds like a Gary Halbert thing. Yeah. Enter the conversation that they're having in their head already. And when you can do that, you will find that target market. And the beauty is you don't have to photograph hundreds of people a month. You don't even have to photograph dozens of people a month. You can be photographing 5 people a month, 3 people a month, and making a great living doing it, because the money that you're bringing in, while making them incredibly happy that they invested that money, you're worth it, would pale in comparison if you were getting a small fraction of that from photographing hundreds of people. All right, so you both already kind of answered the next question I had, which was how can photographers combat these #1 fears that they're having? We kind of talked through that as we were describing these fears. Now, if any of you watching this live, you have a fear we didn't list, I'm willing to bet that the fears we just listed are the ones that most photographers are feeling. Another couple ones they might be feeling is the economy, right? No one is going to be looking for high-end photography. No one, because they won't be able to afford it. You know that's not true. You know that's not true. Every time that there's a terrible economy, there is a big slice of people that are doing really, really well. Now, we won't get into how right or wrong that might be societally. We won't get into the morality of what goes on. None of that matters in this conversation. What matters in this conversation is knowing there will always be people out there that want what you have, and what you offer. Your job, your #1 job, is to reach them with the right message. And that's why our online vault is so powerful for our members. The programs on how to do that are on there, but we're also talking through it now. If you do nothing, again, if you take nothing away from this other than the next 5 to 10 years, I'm going to think about my target market client, and I'm going to talk to them on an emotional and connective level, entering the conversation they're having in their mind. There's your takeaway for today, in my humble opinion. Okay, and that ties into everything we've said so far. So the next question I have for both of you gentlemen is, what do you feel is the biggest challenge photographers will face over the next 5 to 10 years, starting right now? Tom, I'm going to throw it. Well, I'll say something first, and then I'll throw it to Tom. But I'm not going to talk a lot on this one. I want the two of you to have as much time as possible. I personally feel the biggest challenge that photographers are going to have over the next 5 to 10 years is believing they can make it work. I know that sounds broad. I know that sounds ethereal. I know that but you have to, if you wake up every day and what's going through your head is the photography industry is dying. Yeah. If you wake up every day and say, no one out there has money to invest in what I do. If you wake up every day and say, nobody wants high-end photography anymore, they just want something cheap, fast, and AI driven, then you're going to fall into a funk, because if you say those things enough, they're not true. They're not true, and they never will be true. Yes, there will be large groups of people that will fit into that category or those categories, and there will be a group that will not, and that's the group we're going after. But if you say it enough, it becomes a fact to you. What you say repeatedly over and over again in your brain, or aloud, or to your friends, or to your fellow photographers, it becomes truth after a very short period of time. So my way of combating that, to me, is to be sure that you're conscious of the conversation you're having with yourself. If you hear yourself say, this is how things are, stop for a moment and go, is it really? I mean, is it? I know it feels like that, but what are the details I'm missing? What are the things I'm not thinking about? And you'll remember when Tom, Charles, and Todd said, remember, there are people out there all the time that want desperately what you have and don't know you exist. Yep. So that's the biggest challenge I think photographers will be facing over the next 5 to 10 years. Not buying the hype, not just blind, and believing that you have the power to make this work. Tom?
Yeah, I had a couple little notes on this. One was learning how to adapt to constant technological change without letting it throw you off your game. Meaning that if suddenly some software shows up or something shows up that says, and some of this already exists, hey, you don't need to talk to people, they can book with you online, and then they can see their photographs online. And it's almost like the only step missing is, gee, can they photograph themselves and just send me a check? So I never have to meet them at all. Just never meet people. They'll just photograph themselves after booking with me, and they'll send it through AI, and they'll pick their own photograph and look at their phone forever. So don't get dissuaded or thrown off over the next 5 to 10 years, because the changes are coming, and they're coming fast. AI just keeps growing and growing, and the uses for it. One thing I'll note there, if I was the person, I'd be really worried if I was a graphic designer, and as we were preparing this program, I can't show it to you, but just goofing around in Photoshop, which is not the most powerful tool for this. I had generative fill. I said, draw me an Easter bunny with fluffy ears and totally blank slate. And it drew this perfect graphic of a cartoon bunny with an Easter basket. And it was worthy of, high res of going on a billboard. And I said, boy, if I was a graphic designer or an artist and I looked at that, what I did in 3 seconds, I'd be more concerned about that, because that didn't exist. It's not like I photographed someone's bunny and then they'd say, well, that's not my bunny. I want a photograph of my own bunny. So don't let the technology throw you off. And the other thing is, we talk about brand. I hear people talk about brands. A lot of times they think, well, it's the colors on my business card, or the brand is the logo I design or whatever. Well, your brand is really you. This is a personality and emotional business. People want to work with you. So as you're going through the community, the way you dress, the way your car is clean, all these little things we've talked about over the years, your demeanor is extremely important, that will bypass a technology, meaning that technology cannot, even except for fake avatars, cannot be you. There's only one you. So you're not a commodity. It's not like photography is available on every corner. Well, it may be, but it's not yours, and it's not your brand, meaning who you are. So be a person that's great to be around, be a person that people want to work with, be a warm fuzzy. You've heard that a million times, and boy, it served me well over my 45 years, in that people are attracted to you because they want to be around you. And oh yeah, you happen to have a camera and great skills at making them look good as well, plus the business acumen. So make sure that you're not thrown off by technological changes, which are going to be, I can't predict all of them, but they're huge, as they have been over the last 10 years. But also make sure that you remain true to yourself. Don't get thrown off by those things.
Yeah, and as technology advances, what tends to happen is people crave real human connection even more. Yeah. If you take a look at what social media has become over the last decade or more, the more we're connecting here, and we're really starting to see this as more and more studies come out about the psychology of social media, and certainly how it's impacting our youth in a lot of ways, how it's impacting their view of themselves. And what we end up craving is, that's the reason that we're on social media, is a craving for real connection. And sometimes we feel like this is the only way I can get it. But it's not real, The real is when we're in person, when things are really happening. So the beauty of this is even as the technology changes, how we create the images is not as important as what we're capturing in them. That's what matters. Now, until AI can perfectly replicate a family, their true connections, their natural expressions in every way, shape, or form, how when one person is looking at this person in this way, this one looks back at them in this way, then AI will never be able to do what a real family portrait can do, what a real wedding portrait can do. And that's what people are going to look for. When people are looking back at their wedding photographs, let me rephrase that. I feel like people who are happily married, right? They have a wonderful relationship with their spouse, with their significant other. When they're looking at those photographs, I doubt very highly that what they're looking at is, oh, look how perfect my dress flowed off to the left there. If they're looking at that, the expressions, the connection of the human beings probably was not as strong as it should have been. What they're looking at is, look at how he's looking at me. You know, look at how she's looking into my eyes. Look at that. That's real. That's why we got married. That is something AI is going to struggle to ever be able to do. And you know why? Because AI has not lived in here for the number of years that you've been on the planet, while you've been connecting with your family members. It does not know the context for that look, for that expression. That happens through natural life and a life lived with human beings. We keep coming back to family portraiture, which wedding photography is an extension of family portraiture. It absolutely is. The reason that that will always be incredibly powerful is because that's one thing I don't think AI anytime soon is even going to be able to get close to. What AI will be able to do is make an image where those humans are kind of in it, but it just feels disconnected. It doesn't feel right. And the family members themselves will look at that and go, there's something off. I mean, we all look kind of perfect and everything, but something's off, right? So there you go. And your example was great of the bunny. You know, yeah, graphic designers, it's rough. Create me a logo. Boom, there's your logo. Because a logo doesn't have to inherently make an emotional connection with somebody. It should. If it's a good logo, somehow it's making an emotional connection. But that part of the branding has to be coupled with other things that make an emotional connection with you and your business that now is tied in when they get the Pavlovian response of seeing that logo.
And Todd,
those are things that
one extra thought on that. If you've been a photographer long enough, as I have, even a couple of years, you'll notice, especially if you photograph a family with children, they have a blast. So when they look at that portrait, not only do they have that love for each other that's captured there, but the kids tell me they still remember, oh my gosh, we had so much fun. And grandma's not still with us, but we had such fun that day with her. You create a memory, the experience of being photographed, or the excitement of getting ready, coming in. Sometimes a little bit of hassle, you try to help them through with your personality because the 2-year-old isn't behaving. The experience of what goes on can never be replaced by AI or technology if you're doing the photographs. You can make it such a fun, productive time that that they can say, yeah, the photographs are beautiful. And I got this a lot in my testimonials. We had such a great time. We were so nervous. It was so fun. Thank you, Tom. We'll never forget that. And I still, to this day, even though I'm still doing them, I have ones from 30 years ago that say, oh my gosh, I remember coming in your studio and my sister climbed on that chair and it almost tipped over, and my dad was mad and you said, it's okay. And they remember that. So remember, you are going to help them have a great, fun experience that AI can never recreate.
Yeah, so important. So yeah, that's one of your big fears. You're in a unique business where that can actually increase the perceived value of what it is you do. All right, Dad, so what do you feel is the biggest challenge photographers will be facing over the next 5 to 10 years?
The biggest challenge, in my opinion, is going to be forgetting that you are the key to the whole game. You are the key. That if you don't spend as much time, invest as much time into improving your capabilities, your ability to work with people, your ability to help people become happily involved with your photography, that you have to put the time into you. You get, in marketing, we call it, they're looking for the next shiny object. We hear that all the time from all the marketing people that we work with and talk with. They're always saying, that's the next shiny object. That's what they want. That's not right. Because without your knowledge, your capabilities, your abilities of being able to work with people, relate to people, help them feel good and comfortable, talk to them in your marketing messages in such a way that they're, all these things we've talked about so far, you're the key. It's not what the next camera is going to be, or how many megapixels, or how this cool lens works so well, or what's the trend right now in family photography. All of that, it all goes back to what is your ability on a business and personality level to be able to relate to people so that they like you, they trust you, they'll take your advice, they'll do what you recommend, they'll love their photography, although it is not going to be inexpensive, they're still going to love it. That's what you need, is put time into you, because you don't hear that anywhere. You just don't hear it. All you do is hear about the new piece of equipment or the new this or the new that or the shiny whatever. But you've got to put the hours and the time every week into you and your abilities and your knowledge in marketing, pricing and merchandising, and selling. And oh yes, and by the way, on photography. Because without that, nothing else works. That has to become your passion.
Right. And we're, as photographers, we are in a unique position in that in many ways we are our product. In addition to the photography itself, we are the artist, right? And that's part of what makes being a professional photographer such a challenge for so many people, because most people don't get into photography because they want it to become a business. They originally get into it because they love photography. They love the artistry of it. They love the emotion and all that stuff behind it. And that for some could be a negative. You know, I have to think of myself as the product as well. You know, I'm selling myself as well as I'm selling my work. And that's a major positive, because now all you have to do is continue to tap into that thing inside of you that made you want to become a photographer in the first place. Remind yourself of that. What was it that I loved about this before it was a job, before it was a career, before it was something that kept me up at night and stressed me out from time to time? Remember the why, and remember to communicate that to your clients. Let that come through. One thing I will add to that, one of the biggest challenges I think photographers are going to have is standing out from the crowd by letting yourself stand out from the crowd. What I mean by that is, it's very easy for us to look at this like, I'm a business person, so I've got to talk like and act like a business person. I got to be professional. You know, I got to talk in words that sound professional, like you're going to save so much money here, and that money is just going to. No, you're losing me. Don't be professional. Don't be unprofessional. Don't go out of your way to be unprofessional. Just forget about being a business person and be a friend. Be a confidant. Be someone that genuinely wants to connect with this person. And then always filter that through what it is you do as a photographer, why you chose to do it, and how you can help them get that feeling through what you're going to bring to them. That will stand the test of time. In 100 years, we'll be having this same conversation. We'll probably be doing it through holograms, from one of us being on Mars and the other one being on Earth and another one being on a planet we haven't even discovered yet. Okay, maybe more like 1,000 years. But we'll still be having these same conversations, because that's human nature.
Right.
And you are a human first and a business person second. You're a human first. All right. Anything else you gentlemen want to add about, you know, the biggest challenges over the next 5 to 10 years that photographers will be facing? I know there's a bunch of them, but I think the ones that the three of us have given here will blanket cover 99% of all the other ones. And what was the key? What was the thing that was in common with what all three of us said? Be kind to your clients and be kind to yourself. That's it. That's it. That's it. And then go back to what my dad said at the beginning, which is have a process that doesn't function despite that desire to be kind to others and be kind to yourself, that functions because of it. Okay. Last question for today. This one could take a while, but we're going to be done on time. We might even be done a little bit early, but this one's a big one. I wanted to end with this one, which is, what do you feel are the 1 or 2 most important things that photographers must do over the next year to be successful? Now, we've already said a few here that are definite musts, but I want to throw this one out to the two of you. What do you feel are some like action items, like specific action items, 2 or 3 of them max over the next 5 to 10 years to help them guarantee success? Now, Dad, do you want to go first on this one?
Sure. PTS time. That's it. You are where you are because of what has gone into your mind. And you can change where you are. You can change who you are. You can change what you are by changing what goes into your mind. I learned that from the great Zig Ziglar. And that's absolutely true. We don't realize it, but that's absolutely true. So 30, 40, 45 years ago, I started doing what I call PTS time, planning.
That's the letter P, the letter T, the letter S. And what do those stand for?
Planning, thinking, and studying. And so I think it was Benjamin Franklin that I first learned about the fact that how the first hour of your day goes, so goes your day. And he felt that you needed to concentrate on certain areas, and he came up with 13 of them. It's in his autobiography. It's great stuff. And I welded it all or melded it all together and came up with planning, thinking, and studying. And so I took the first hour, I joined the 6 o'clock club. That was Benjamin Franklin, who ended up joining the 5 o'clock club. But anyway, 6 o'clock was fine with me. So, because I'd be up before anyone else in the house was up. And so I could grab a cup of tea or a glass of orange juice, and I could sit down and I could have my journal, and I could have the particular book or books that I'm reading at the moment, and my notes and my things to do list, and all these pieces that fit together to make the day successful. And then I invested that hour, 20 minutes on planning, 20 minutes on thinking, which, oh, who was that? John Maxwell? Actually, John wrote a great book called Thinking for a Change. Now that is a great title. Does it mean thinking for a change? Because we don't normally do that. Or does it mean thinking for a change? Anyway, great book. And so that's what you do. You form a new habit of joining the 6 o'clock club and spending time with yourself. I was teaching a class at Winona several years ago, multiple years ago now. And the classes, we got rowdy. And we would go around to the other classes and we had a ball, okay? But we were learning things. And so finally at the banquet, they asked some people, what did you learn today? Or this week in this class? What did you learn? And one of my class members and who I was working with, was in the class, and he stood up and he said, I'm going to spend time with myself. And he was so loud and so proud, and there was just silence. Nobody knew what he meant except the other class members. But that's so crucial because that'll get you where you need to go. And then, of course, you have to do what impresses me about Todd and Tom is they take action. They come up with the thought, or they find a thought from somebody else who is where they want to be, and then they take action on it. And all of that revolves around PTS time, planning, thinking, and studying time.
Now, real quick on that too, just for anyone who's a little confused on what the 6 o'clock club means. It's not a club that you join. It's not a club you go to. It's not an online club. I mean, obviously not. Benjamin Franklin did it. The 6 o'clock club means that, however, it happened to be 6 o'clock originally for Benjamin Franklin. Then, like my dad said, he went to the 5 o'clock club. Is you find out how early do I typically have to get up to start my day, and then get up a little bit earlier so you can do PTS time first. So if you have kids and those kids, boy, I got to get up by 6:30 so I can start getting ready myself to get the kids ready, get them off to school, and then start my day. Then get up at 5:30, join the 5:30 club, or start by getting up. Start somewhere. Start by getting up at 6 o'clock. Give yourself a half hour and do 10 minutes for each section. It's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. Ultimately, you want a bare minimum of 15 minutes for each. The planning, the thinking, and the study time. In a perfect world, it's 60 minutes. That 60 minutes that you will invest in the beginning of your day will bring you uncounted rewards, uncalculable rewards, both personally, mentally, physically, and even time-wise than that hour spent. So it is an investment in your day.
Yeah.
I always like to look at it as, I use the analogy that we as human beings, our brains are like a computer, and they really are. I mean, scientists will tell you in a lot of ways the brain mimics a computer, albeit a quantum computer in a lot of ways, a computer that's far more complex than anything we've created, but it works in a lot of ways similarly to the way a computer works. Well, when you start up your computer at the beginning of the morning, when you first turn that computer on from a dead shutdown the night before, what's the first thing that computer loads into its memory? It loads the operating system. It loads the operating system first. Because if that computer does not load the operating system, which is the processes that tell it how to deal with every piece of data or information that comes into it throughout the day, that computer will be useless if it doesn't have an operating system. Well, guess what? PTS time is the operating system for your brain. When you boot that brain up first thing in the morning, you want to load it with the operating system that is going to prepare you to be able to handle all of the data, the challenges, the stumbling blocks, and the positivity that comes your way throughout that day. Don't underestimate how important that is. So PTS time is one. Do you have a second, Dad, that you want to share? That one, I mean, technically that one's kind of three all rolled into one.
Three. That's three.
Yeah, planning, thinking, and study. And it's important to do all three. I want to make it, and if you want more information on this, on the online vault, there are programs, just type PTS or goal setting into the search bar, you'll find them there. But planning is where you're planning out your day. What are you going to do at specific times of the day? What things are important? And then you stick to that plan. Thinking is where you think about the big picture of your business, of your life, of your relationships, all the things that you want in your life. You think about the big picture of it, because if we don't do that, we're always focused on the right now. And if you focus on the right now, you stay where you are right now. You have to be thinking steps ahead, and that thinking time allows you and gives you that permission to think of the big picture before you start the day thinking about the moment to moment. And then the study time, I like to think of it more as motivation time, because what you're not doing is you're not studying how to be a better photographer or a better marketer. You'll make time for that at other points in the day. What you're doing is you're reading something that motivates and energizes you, something that gets you energized and motivated to tackle the day. Whether it's a biography from somebody, a self-help book. One of my favorites, those of you who have been studying with us for a long time know that Tony Robbins has been a big influence for me. Do I agree with every single word that the man says? No, but I cannot deny the difference that his teachings have made in my life and in the way I look at the world and myself from a motivation standpoint. Yep. I will pull Awaken the Giant Within, Tony Robbins' arguably first really massively successful book on a global scale, and I will turn to any page of it and read for 10 minutes, and that motivates and energizes me. It could be a religious book, a spiritual book, whatever it is that motivates and energizes you. All right, with that, Tom, anything you want to add about PTS time, and then go ahead with what, one or two most important things photographers must do over the next 5 to 10 years.
Sure. Well, first of all, enveloped or housed in that PTS time, I focus in on goal setting. Goal setting is not just saying I want to be rich, or I want to be a good photographer, or I want a house, or whatever. It is putting down, what do they call it? A dream with a deadline. And as a matter of fact, touching back on Zig Ziglar, Ralph Waldo Emerson, I saw a quote the other day that said, "You are what you think about all day," which is a corollary or a sidebar of "you are what goes into your mind." Both quotes I've probably done not quite perfectly, but you get the point. And so what do you think about all day? Well, the goal setting helps you think of that. And I'm talking, and we've done many programs on this on the online vault, personal, business, spiritual, physical, mental, all those things can be listed down, family. And they are for today, this week, this month, this year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when I lay my head down on the pillow at the end of my life, what will I wish I had done? And start quantifying those by writing them down. So that's part of that PTS time, is that constant updating of goal setting. And that's going to really help you get through the year, because you wouldn't got, how do you know if you've achieved it if you haven't written it down? At the end of the year, do you say, did I really make my goals? Did I make the number of sessions I wanted to do, and was my sales average? Did I do the fun things I wanted to do? Did I get the equipment I needed? All those things that you need to do, if they're written down. Personally, I think it's better if you handwrite them rather than do them on a tablet or a PC. Something ergonomic about writing them down implants them into your brain. It's old school, but I think it really works better. The other things in getting off PTS time and goal setting is client relations. A lot of times we photograph people and we forget about them. And actually acquiring new clients is a lot more difficult, time consuming, and expensive, although we need to do it, than harvesting from that diamond mine we have in our computers and our databases of people we've worked with who know us and love us. So stay in touch with those people. Sometimes we did it old school over the years with a printed, mailed, snail mail newsletter. I think that's still kind of cool because people aren't doing that as much. It really sticks out. It could be a simple 1 page, 2 pages. Hey, here's what we're up to. Not trying to sell people anything, just letting them know you're there. A phone call. Hey, it's been a while. It's kind of slow. We're getting snowed in. I'm just thinking of you. We had a great time with you. How's the family? Or email or something else that lets them know that you didn't forget them. And then, oh, by the way, I know it's been about 5 years. I know your family is growing up. I just wanted to let you know June's Family Portrait Month. Something soft sell if you want, but stay in touch with and maintain your client base this year. I think is very important.
Very good, Tom.
Yeah, being proactive, constant and congruent action. That is an extension of, again, something I learned from Tony Robbins many years ago called the process of CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. Improvement, excelling at something, getting better at something, moving forward in any aspect of your life does not happen in an instant for anyone. It involves constant and never-ending improvement. So remember that principle of CANI. Thank you, Tony Robbins, for that brilliant concept. I don't know if he came up with it or learned it from someone else either, but wherever it came from, much like a steering wheel in a car, I don't care who created that steering wheel, I'm going to use it every time I drive. Well, use CANI every day of your life. For me, a couple of things that every photographer must do over the next 5 to 10 years is consciously practice your skills of human communication. Constantly and actively practice your skills. What I mean by that is the importance of role playing. All of the stuff we talked about today, as you look past your notes, with no exception that I can think of right off the top of my head, every single point that we've talked about in some way is tied to the power of honest and emotional communication, whether it's with your clients, through your marketing or your sales principles, or whether it's communicating with yourself. Well, then we got to practice. We don't practice this stuff. We think, well, I'm a human. I know how to talk to people, so I'll just go talk to people. Well, yeah. But if you're a quarterback and you're going to go out on the field and you're going to play in the big game, are you just going to say, I'm a quarterback already? I'll just go out there, throw the ball. No, you're going to practice the heck out of it if that means anything to you, if winning means something. And in this case, winning for us, in my mind, is always making an honest and powerful connection with that potential client. My number one goal is always that they leave this interaction with me feeling good and feeling happy, that they're happy we had this conversation, that they saw this message, whatever it is. That's my number one goal. The second goal after that is, I hope I found out what they wanted and helped them to realize how I may be able to help them to get it. Okay. So we practice this, and you do that through role playing. Don't think that, hey, when that phone rings, I'll just answer it and I'll get better with every phone call I take. You can't afford that. You want to be already as good as you can possibly be in that moment when that phone rings. So you practice it. Get together with a family member. Get together with a friend and just say, hey, will you just pretend to be somebody calling me because you saw a Facebook message and asking about my family portraiture? Sure, I can do that. Great. And you don't have to prepare them any more than that. Just say, hey, you saw this Facebook message. You have a family. You wanted to call and ask about the family portrait. Well, how much do you charge? Don't worry about that. Just do that part. The rest of it is up to you. And then you'll get really good at knowing what questions to ask, Are you asking enough questions, and are you asking the right ones? Are you asking questions that are open-ended questions where they will respond not with a yes or a no, but with more detail that gives you, A, more information about what they want, and B, makes that connection deeper. We don't make deep connections with people by asking and answering yes or no questions. We make deep connections with people by asking open-ended questions and answering those open-ended questions from a place of honesty and emotion. And you can only do that by practicing and role-playing. Do this, you should be doing this at least twice a week. At least twice a week. I mean, that's nothing. That's nothing. If you want to be a better cook, how many meals are you going to cook? If you want to be a stronger person and have more muscles, how many days are you going to go to the gym? You know, you've got to ask yourself, how important is this to me? And guess what? The side effect of this, which I suppose I should say is probably the big thing you'll take from this, even bigger than what your business will gain from it, is you will now become a better communicator with the people that you love in your life anyway. This has benefits well beyond your business. This will have benefits in every aspect of your life. So over the next 5 to 10 years, make a conscious effort. And I'd be willing to bet if I polled 1,000 photographers all over the globe and said, how many of you role play telephone conversations? How many of you role play on a semi-regular basis, even once a month? How many of you role play a one-on-one conversation when somebody actually comes in to meet with you about being a potential client? I would be willing to bet that less than 10. Less than 10 out of 1,000, not 100, out of 1,000, less than 10, if they were being honest, would be able to say, I do that. And guess what? I'll bet if we looked at the numbers, the success numbers of number of clients, profitability, however you would deem success as a photographer, those 10 are probably making a better living than the remaining 990 of them combined. Because remember, this is also about, here's my second point, what to do over the next 5 to 10 years, is be very clear with yourself starting today what you want your photography business to be. The specifics. What do I want my photography business to be? Because if you don't know that, then you're not aiming for a target. And if you're not aiming for a target, you're not going to hit anything. In fact, you might take out an innocent bystander, right? You may lose something that's important to you because you're not aiming for the thing you do want. So be very clear with yourself. What do I want my photography business to be starting today? What types of clients do I want to work with? And I don't mean profiling them. I just mean I would like to work with clients who appreciate what I do. I would like to work with clients that see the value of investing time and money in somebody that's going to create something that goes beyond what Uncle John could do with his new 30 megapixel camera. I would like to work, 35 hours a week max, so that I have time for the other parts of my life that I love and that's important to me. I would like to make X amount of dollars a year in profitability from my photography business because that's what I need in order to feel secure, to feel safe, to feel happy, and to have a little bit of discretionary funds to do the other things I enjoy. And no two photographers are going to have the same answers to those questions, so you have to ask them for yourself. We can't answer those for you. We've answered them for ourselves. Absolutely. I could put Tom on the spot. Tom, I'm going to put you on the spot right now. What do you want your photography business to look like as quickly off the top of your head as you can say it?
I would like to work 35, 40 hours a week, no nights, no weekends, unless I'm doing a wedding, and provide, again, an income that allows you to do other things because you're not just a photographer. You're a family person. You might have outside interests. You want to be able to have something that provides you, again, with the lifestyle that you want so that you can be free. I always termed it in freedom. Owning your own small business, as hard as it can be, if it's run properly, gives you freedom, and that encompasses a lot.
Yeah, and Tom has a lot of outside interests, not the least of which is his family, but he's in a band, he's a guitar player and a singer, a wonderful musician. He's got all of these other interests in addition to photography. And if you don't find balance, we're going back to the Karate Kid, we're going back to Mr. Miyagi. Balance is important, very important. So how do those two things play together? Practice makes perfect, right? Role playing and knowing what you want from your business. Then once you know what you want from your business and you realize the type of clientele that you probably want to be working with, then you realize how important it is that I improve my personal communication skills, both on paper and in person, so that I can have them understand why I am the right person on an emotional level and on a skill level to create these important images of them and their family. All right. Whew, all right, that's a lot of stuff. That is a lot of stuff, gentlemen. So with the short time that we have left, first of all, I want to say thank you to Shirley. A couple of great comments have come in from Shirley. And anyone else watching us live, feel free to type a message into us or a question. Now is your time because we've only got a few minutes left on this program. But Shirley said, I love what you are all sharing. People skills are truly vital. Yes, Shirley, absolutely. And she says, sell the product which are the emotions of your clients, and that will feel every time like they took the portraits you create. It'll show up in the portraits you created for them. I think that's what that's saying.
That was a very nice thought. Very well put, Shirley.
Yes, you're not just selling the finished product, you're selling the emotion that's in that product. That's the difference. You're not photographing a product for a brochure, which, don't get me wrong, the great product photographers understand how to elicit an emotional response from an image of that product.
Yeah.
We have an easier job than those people because we're photographing subjects that naturally have emotions that they can convey when we know how to bring that out of them. I'm going to add one last thing. I got to add a third thing to my list of the 1 or 2 things. Become an expert in the understanding of human psychology.
Mm-hmm.
The more you understand the importance of human psychology and the ways to ask the right questions to elicit emotional answers rather than logical answers, and then you practice those with your role playing at least 2 times a week, knowing clearly the type of clientele that you want to work with over the next 5 to 10 years, and you now have a laser focus rather than a scattershot focus that might occasionally hit a target 1 out of 1,000 shots. All right. So with that, gentlemen, I want to give you any last words that you want to share with the folks that are on this program, that are watching the recording of this program. Let's start with Tom. Any last words that you have for? Well, first of all, let me ask you this. I'm going to ask both of you this just within 30 to 60 seconds tops. Okay, please try to get it within 30 to 60 seconds. I just want to know, do you feel that the future is bright or dim for the photographic industry over the next 5 to 10 years? Ooh, that's a tough one. That could be a program all on its own. But Tom, 30 to 60 seconds, bright or dim?
It can be bright if you do it correctly. And we've laid out that roadmap today of the correct ways to approach it. It can be dim if you follow other people who don't know what they're doing. And yep. Chuck, one of the first things Chuck Lewis taught me in 1982 was don't be afraid to look around, see what all the other photographers are doing, and go the other direction. Do the opposite. You know, the processionary caterpillar that they all eventually fall in. I've remembered all those, Chuck, because they've been vital in my thinking of what should I do here. And I see so many people struggling and they're all doing the same thing. Hey, I got an idea, and they all do it, and boom, they all fall in. So don't do that. Be sure you learn the right ways to do things. And even if other photographers are like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You know, it could be your happy little secret if you want. Just smile and say, just going my way. And but don't be afraid to do those things, even if everybody else is not.
All right, Dad, how about you? Same question. Bright or dim future?
Both. For most photographers, I feel it's going to be rather grim. But for the photographers who do the things that we talked about today and who take advice only from those people who are where they want to be, where do you want to be? What do you want to have happen in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? And then find people who are there now and take their advice. Do not allow yourself to be influenced by the loud, bully, big-mouthed losers that'll tell you everything. They don't know anything. They don't know what they're talking about because they're not where you want to be. So only be influenced by the people who are where you want to be, specifically yourself. And then the other thing that's so important to me is remember always that you are the biggest decision of your career is how you present your images to your clients. How do you, that is the single biggest decision. If you get sucked into this, show it to them online and all that, you just cannot do that. And on the Online Vault, we talk a lot about exactly the way to present your images to your clients, and your clients will be thrilled. They'll love it. And your sales and your reputation will be very excellent in the community because you're taking really good care of each and every client.
Yeah, that's a great one too. We've touched on so many things today, each of which could be a program in itself. And you know what? There probably is a program that'll go even deeper into that on the Online Vault for you as well. So last thoughts here. I think those were two great last thoughts there for you guys. Unless you have something else you want to add, I'll give you one more moment here after I just say my final thoughts here as well. Is I end almost every program with this plea. I'm going to end it from my point of view with that plea right now. Take action. Don't go back to the way things have always been. Don't let life dictate for you how you're going to be today, how you're going to feel today. Don't let the world around you suck you back into that vortex of complacency. Take action on something you discovered today as soon as this event is done. Build that momentum up. Start yourself going in the right direction and then stay on that. If you believe, that's the other thing, is you've got to believe that what we have said today is accurate and that it can work for you. And I would challenge you, if you're looking at any of this going, I don't believe any of that, or that'll never work for me, I want you to go back through your notes, go back through everything that we said and say, really? Because everything we talked about today has virtually nothing to do with the economy, where you live, who's in power and not in power. It has nothing. It has to do with you and your connecting to people and finding those right people who are already out there. And if that's not happening now, then obviously you have to do something different. And we gave you things today to work on for that. I hope this was helpful to you today. The next 5 to 10 years, where do I see it? Do I think that the future is bright or dim? I think it's very bright if you are willing to do the things that the other people in the industry are not willing to do. That's the shining beacon of hope, is when you're willing to do what the masses are not willing to do. When you look at the track of success or failure and realize that the majority of people fail, that's an unfortunate statistic that is true in almost every aspect of life. The majority of people will not succeed. And that's horrible. But what's the thing that makes the difference between the people that succeed and the people that fail? Regardless of how they get there, it usually comes down to taking action and continuing to take action when you perceive yourself as failing in a moment. Whatever gets you to that point, education, what the people around you, your environment, how you communicate with yourself throughout all of that, whatever gets you there, those are the things that make the difference. Taking action and then continuing to take action when you stumble. All right, with that, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking your time today. If there's any last minute things you want to say, Tom, I'll turn it over to you. Dad, you can wrap us up. So Tom?
Yeah, I want to read you something real quick. It's a quick paragraph. it's an ad. It could go on Facebook, and it says, as parents, you know how quickly time passes. One moment your children are taking their first steps, the next they're teens ready to spread their wings. The thought of missing these precious milestones can weigh heavy on your heart, and you might wonder, why am I working so hard for it if I'm not capturing those irreplaceable moments of my family? So it sounds like something I might have written. Well, I told AI about my business and what I'm about and my emotions and why I'm in this business, and it wrote longer than that, but I just read you the first paragraph of what it thought might be a good ad. So it would not have known those things, and it would have not written it that way other than my heart, soul, or emotions are in that copy. So it's just a tool. It's not going to do it for you. You have to do this stuff yourself. You could use a tool like that. If you're not good at wording things, tell it. It'll reward it for you, but don't let it replace you, because really you're irreplaceable. There's only one of you. And remember that when you're working with your clients and your marketing, that, you know, if they want you, you're worth it, and you're worth charging the fees that you're going to charge to have your business be a long-term success. And with that, thank you. And it's been great being here.
Thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure having you on these events, and I know you're a very busy guy, and happily so. We love being busy, but it means a lot to us that you take the time to be on here and share your valuable wisdom with our members. That was very kind of you. Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, and our members appreciate it very much too. And Ralph even typed in and said, thank you, Tom and Todd, you are spot on about the AI. And you just brought up AI again. So thank you for that, Ralph. Go ahead, Dan.
I hope this was helpful for you today. Please, like Todd and Tom both said, take action. It was our honor and pleasure to be here to speak with you and hopefully help you get where you want to go with this wonderful, wonderful profession of professional photography. It's just great. It's good to have you here. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of the year and a great 5 to 10 years going forward.
Yeah.
For you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.